All right, now we are recording, and I have the beautiful Kyra Bird. Is that correct? Did I
It's
pronounce it
Ciara
correctly?
bird. It's pronounced really weird. Yeah, Ciara.
Oh, Sierra Bird.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a reclaiming native, so I'm a returning native. So many of these names, I'm relearning how to pronounce them with our phonetics and within our language and how we normally spell and pronounce our names. So thank you
Yeah.
for that correction.
Oh, no problem. It's actually Gaelic, so I'm reconnecting too. I'm Irish, Scottish, Cherokee, and Ojibwe. So
Oh, wow.
the spelling of that name comes from the Irish Scottish heritage. Yeah.
Oh, wow. As a matter of fact, as a Plains Cree woman, when I heard the story of the Irish and that tribe in the United States, I completely forgotten the tribe, but I just found it so heartwarming and I found it so beautiful that there was a connection, there was a friendship that was made over a long distance. And for me, I have gratitude towards the Irish people because it wasn't towards, a tribe that I'm a part of or a tribe
Yeah.
within Canada, but nonetheless, it was an Indigenous tribe. And, we're all connected throughout Turtle Island, whether it's Canada, United States, Mexico. So if one tribe, has positive news, then it's felt with all throughout all the Indigenous communities of Turtle Island. So for me as a Plains Cree woman, I have gratitude on behalf of the tribe in the United States that sought and you know, received help from Ireland during the time when both countries were having their own fights
Yeah.
of humanity. And so, on behalf of myself and on behalf of Turtle Island, as a Turtle Islander, I'm just grateful to Ireland. And in fact, Ireland is one of the places that I would love to visit
Same
in the
here.
future.
I want to go there so bad. It's beautiful over there.
Oh, I can just imagine. And the language, it's just so beautiful.
Yes.
In fact, I have it on my to-do list that I would love to write a letter to a body within the Ireland country, whether that's the government or that's a historian or someone within a large body of the system, and tell them as a Plains Cree and a Turtle Islander in connection with the tribes and also within historical um, kingship within the tribes of the United States. I want to say thank you for helping them out and being an ally during the potato famine.
Yeah. That'd be
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
find yes, it would be, and it would be a very uplifting part of my story and
Definitely.
and very epic when it comes to storytelling. Okay. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we have this beautiful lady on our podcast for episode 9. Um, Kyra Bird.
Ciara.
Ciara, for goodness sake, Ciara.
Okay.
Goodness. Yeah, Ciara. Okay. So our first question, we will ask that Ciara introduce herself. And the question is, can you share a bit about who Ciara Bird is in your own words?
Yeah, so I am a mother of five. I have a like professional history in politics and first response. My history in becoming a first responder started when I turned 18, and then I stopped doing it professionally a couple years ago, and that's when I started picking up the beatings. So I'm just somebody who loves to just show up and, make something out of nothing.
That sounds like a very honorable and very awe-inspiring. My goodness, I'm sorry. Awe-inspiring and admirable, and those words. I was very good at English. Like, I got high marks in English throughout high school, and yet I am stuck on these synonyms. For the life of me, I cannot figure out what other synonyms that would describe beautiful, admiring, and awe-inspiring. So many of the listeners and viewers who are tuning into episode 9 are probably sick of me repeatedly using those descriptive words, and I'm just like, my brain is just not giving me the time of day, not giving me the grace of day. It's funny, it's hilarious, but at the same time, it's not funny, because as someone who was proud of her high English marks with throughout high school, I'm still stuck on these damn synonyms, and it's just like, really?
It's okay. It happens to me too.
I got well into the 90% of my marks with my English language arts, and I'm still stuck on these 3 repeating repetitive synonyms, and it's as if my brain, like, that's the best my brain can do. My brain can't come up with any other synonym besides that. But yes, going back to your response to the first question, that is a very honorable trait to have, is someone who finds their own way, who discovers their own journey, and who uses their talents and uses their gifts and brings it out in the world, where there's a lot of good that can be done, and there's a lot of good that can be taken from it. There's a lot of good that just goes all around, and so that's a very honorable and a very awe-inspiring trait to have, is when someone is willing to just be themselves and willing to bring it out into a field that you would not expect, that needs a lot of personality or persona of a person. I mean, it takes patience, and it takes discipline, and it takes self motivation, as well as strength of the person. Again, I was an English person throughout high school, and for the life of me, my brain just does not want to cooperate for whatever reason. But I just find your little snippet of describing yourself and who you are as a person, it just makes me want to achieve more, to be the kind of person that I surround myself, whether that's my aunties or whether that's like one of my guests for the time being, and we sort of hit it off, or we're comfortable with having these conversations, to be not self-centered, or to be selfish, or to find the strength where we can set aside our pride, and we can help others, and we can be a cheerleader, we can be a supporter, we can be a helper, we can bring out positivity, and hopefully find bits and pieces of good within the world, and make that goodness shine. So thank you for sharing. And if you'd like to carry on of providing more of a detailed or more of a expanded answer to the first question, please feel free. Or if you'd like to move on to the second question.
It's pretty much just me in a nutshell. I just show up all the time. I'm just always here. We could probably move on to the second question, because there's not much to say. I literally just stay at home, I bead, and I parent my kids, and then when someone needs help, I show up. So
Yes. And again, going off of that trait, of a person who shows up and finds the good in the world and is, ready to roll up their sleeves and to be a helper and a supporter. I'd like to think of myself as not just the owner and the hostess of the Indigenous Central podcast, but also that I'm a cheerleader, that, I'm here providing a safe space for storytelling, sharing your experiences and your knowledge, and, hopefully getting people out of the couch cushions and getting them up and saying, yeah, I am going to do that 30-day challenge that I was holding off, or yeah, I am going to start on that beading project or on that sewing project, or yeah, I am going to go for that 2-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute walk every day. And
Yeah, a lot of that comes down to, like, for me, I was used to be really hard at self-starting. And it was actually an incident that happened at work that made me pick up the beading needle and start beading and sewing and doing all of that stuff just to combat the PTSD that I'd gotten from that situation. So it's it's a lot of, like, mind, like, it's a lot of in your mind, like, you got to get up and be like, hey, I got to do this today. Then the
yeah,
nice thing about beading too is that once you're, like, finished a piece, you have that sense of accomplishment too, right? And it makes you feel like you've done something for the day. um and then it's a good way to bring in income too, right? But a lot of, like, the way that started was because I had a really bad call at work and needed to do something to get my mind off of it, because every time I would close my eyes, like, it was such an awful situation that I needed to find a distraction. And it was the sewing and the beading that really kind of brought me back to reality, because I was stuck in kind of a haze for about 3 weeks where I just didn't do anything. Um, and then I picked up beading more intense. They had a beading program in my community here. And then that's what kind of got me into it. Was like, my husband was like, you need to get out of the house, like, you're going crazy. I was like, I know. So I left and I went over there, and there was all of my friends and family and stuff were over there, and they had all knew what I'd just gone through. And that's kind of what got it started. Was we would have our beading classes within the reserve twice a week, and we had those for about a year before, like, our funding was cut. But that was something that really helped my mental health and got me going at that time, and what made me a self-starter. You know what I mean? Like, I used to have a really hard time getting up and going. The only time I'd get up and go was when someone needed help, because it was like that burst of adrenaline where you're like, hey, I gotta go, I gotta run, they need my help. But yeah, like, for the most part, like, doing stuff for myself was really challenging, because just the stuff looming over from work and stuff. But the beading really helped bring me back, and I'm really thankful to it for that.
yeah. I want to say there is a common thread between you and I, given that we are entrepreneurs and that we are business women. And we'll touch a little bit about that, about your story of how you got into being a businesswoman in questions 2 and 3. But a little bit, and not to take away the red carpet or to take away the spotlight, but to pull on the common thread, or to sort of glide my fingers on the common thread that, as we discussed prior to the recording of this episode, of how it's a challenge to get people to, be interested in your product, to be interested in your business, to be interested in your mission and what you are about as a businesswoman and as an entrepreneur, and what the threshold of your business is and what it stands for. For me, it's very challenging. You put in, say, I don't know, 3 hours or 2 hours, or even just 25 minutes into a reel, into a post, into a story, and you find, these trends, or you find someone that used this hook or used this kind of music, and then you bleed it into your own creativity and creating your own material for the social media and for the posting and for the promoting and for the marketing and the advertising of your business. And then at the end of the day, you get a minimum of 200 views. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I put in all that work to find this business, to find it within myself what the business would be about and what I wanted to do with the business. And then once I got started and I put action into the idea, and now I have these reels and I have these audio saved and I have these hooks screenshotted and they're saved on my gallery, and all for what? 200 views at the most, at the minimum, and it's
Yeah.
just a challenge. And yeah, it's a challenge. Like, how do we, keep our sanity in the midst of being who we are?
Yeah, I think for that, you just like my key to that is just to continuously keep working. You know what I mean? Because that video may not have gotten views, but the next one might. You know what I mean? Like you just always kind of
Mm-hmm.
got to have that hope. A lot of too what I've noticed too about getting views up was like following trends and stuff like that. So I've had a few videos on my TikTok just like I say randomly go viral, but I know they're gonna go viral before they go viral because I'm watching the trends, listening to what sounds are being used most, using the hashtags appropriately and stuff like that. Sometimes they flop, sometimes they go nuts, right? But for the
Mm-hmm.
ones that I have more that flop for the ones that go crazy, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
So you just got to
Yes.
keep working at it and keep having faith in yourself and faith in your product and the message that you're sending out. Because eventually, if you keep working at it, like my favorite thing about advertising is
Mm.
the more people see it, the more they think about it. You know what I mean? Like, for example, think of like the Dubai chocolate bars. When you first saw that the first time, you're probably like, oh, that's gross, right? And then the
Mm.
second time you saw it, you're like, I can't believe people are buying this. And then the third time you saw it, you're like, oh, well, maybe if people are buying it so much, maybe it's good. By the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time you see it, you're wanting to try it now too because everybody's trying it, right? So the more that you
Yes.
push out your content in people's faces and the more that they're seeing it, the more likely they are to engage with it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And, you know, going back to my history within my personal education journey, throughout college, I am taking a year's break off college. But when I was in college for the first 3 years prior to this 1 year academic break, I couldn't make up my damn mind. Did I want to be in business? Did I want to be an RN? Did I want to be in university transfer? Okay, where the hell do I want to be? Could I make up my mind already? Because I'm getting dizzy, I am getting confused, and I am just losing my damn mind. But the 2 semesters that I was in, or actually the 3 semesters that I was in business, and I didn't complete much of anything in my business programming, but I did take a marketing and advertisement class course, and they do talk about the more that you push your content, the more that you put out, whether you reuse your audio or you reuse an element or you reuse a template from your previous and past content, the more you're putting it in people's faces and the more you're putting it out there, the more people will want to engage with it. But at the same time, you're on that fine line, you're on that tightrope between losing your sanity and losing faith in yourself and in your
Yeah.
business and in your product and what you have to offer, and you know having that hope and moving forward and having that self-determination, that self-motivation to continuously, one after the other, put out a video, put out a reel, put out a post, find the trends, do the research, find the audios, doom scroll for an hour and a half, and you think, oh, I'm just gonna quickly spend 15 minutes doing a little bit of research, and then it turns into 5 hours, 10 hours, and then you haven't procreated anything, you haven't curated your reels or your stories or your timelines, or you haven't done the promoting of the recent episode, and then it's just falling down a rabbit hole, and you wonder, when is this going to end? When is it going to be that balance of, okay, I can have a little bit of that realistic mindset that I'm not going to go viral overnight, but at the same time, how do I keep the balance and the faith that it is going to, pay out in the long run?
Yeah. It's a lot of believing in yourself as because obviously like you saw something good enough in it to start. So you just got to keep focusing on that, keep pulling from that. Like that's your the biggest thing about business too is like your why, right? And as long as your why is solid, the why you're doing it, the why you're going out there, the why you're putting yourself out there, it will pay off. It just takes a lot of time sometimes. Like it's just you got to be patient with yourself, but you got to be patient with others too, because sometimes
Hmm.
others are like scared to try new stuff, right? I know like for people like podcasts and stuff like that too weren't really coming in until the last couple years. But think of all of the other creators that have been putting out podcasts like every week or every day for like the last 6 7 years on like the podcast app on the Apple Store, and now they're
Hmm.
finally blowing up. You know what I mean? Like it's just all of the hard work that you got to consistently put into it and believing in yourself, believing in your message, believing in your product. And then eventually people will see that belief you have in yourself and they will be inspired by it and start, coming to you to look for that so they can kind of pull it in, right?
Hmm. Yeah. But it's difficult though, and not to be whiny, but it's just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. It's again finding that consistency, finding that self determination,
Yeah.
and going with it, and not giving up, and not laying in bed or sitting on your butt doom scrolling. It's actually putting in the work, but again, you
Yeah.
also need the cheerleaders. Yourself, you're the cheerleader, but it's also
You need other
beneficial when
people
you
in your
have,
corner too. Yeah.
yes,
So
yeah,
like for me, like there's always like those people that are gonna hate on like my beadwork and stuff like that too, just because it's mine. They're gonna be like,
mm,
oh, but there's always those one or two people that are always looking to see what I'm posting, what I'm beating because they enjoy it.
yeah,
And even if you're doing it for just those one or two people, that's all that matters. Because those one or two
mm-hmm,
people will eventually turn into more people. But sometimes like yeah, like I definitely get it. Like I feel like I don't have a lot of people in my corner sometimes. And like especially when I first started, because there was like other beaters in the community and in surrounding communities that were better than me. And then as I started getting better, they started getting jealous and started getting like angry that I was beating. And I was like, okay, you guys, like there's enough like real estate here for all of us beaters. But there's
yeah,
gonna be times where you're not gonna want to put hours or, even minutes into your business. Like a lot of the time, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm putting 8 to 12 hours a day into my business. But recently, I've been putting no hours into my business. So
mm,
and like for me too, like it's not always what you don't always get back what you put into it. You know what I mean? And that can get exhausting and draining sometimes too. But one day it will happen. You just gotta have the faith for it. It's gonna happen. I can
yes,
feel it.
yes, and it's holding on to that feeling of when you first started, you had the idea and you had the dream, and something pulled you into just starting the business,
Yeah,
and also having that feeling and holding on to that feeling and
yeah.
not losing that feeling and not losing yourself or your sanity or your identity or who you are as a person, but just keeping it together and keeping the balance. That too is a lot of discipline. That's a lot of
It
work. That's a
is.
lot of.
And not everybody has that. Like, and I'm honest
Mhm.
with you, like not everybody has that. There's very few people that are business owners that have that ability to just get up and grind and go every day. I don't have that ability. There's times where I just want to lay in bed and again doom scroll and bed rot and just not do anything. I look at my beading projects on the table, I'm like, ugh. Or like especially
Mhm.
my sewing projects and stuff, like I'll look at them and I'm just like, oh, the motivation just isn't there sometimes. And that's okay because that's your body's way of telling you that you need a break. Because sometimes when
Mhm.
it feels like you're beating a dead horse over and over and over again, it starts to get like really mentally draining and it affects your mental health. So on those
Mhm.
days where you feel like not giving 110%, that is your brain's way of making you take a break because you deserve to have a break. Like
Mhm.
it's there was times where I was beating like 18 to 20 hours a day. Like I was literally sleeping 4 hours. I would get up at 6 in the morning and I would bead until like 2 in the morning. And then I would sleep for a little bit and whatever and get up and keep beading and whatever. But then there's days where I look at that and I'm like, crazy people do that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's,
Yep.
yeah, it's sometimes you just gotta kind of let it ebb and flow.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I like again. gliding my finger on that common thread between us, not just as businesswomen, as entrepreneurs, but also there's a lot of commonality with, just I just want to
Yeah.
be a fucking zombie, or I just want to be
Yeah.
a skeleton, and it just taking that breath and reminding yourself to take that breath and to do that breathing box that
Yeah.
you might have been taught in school or through a mental health program or through a
Yeah.
self-care program, and it's just like and also keeping yourself in check and not going off the handle and saying F this, F that, oh for F's sake, oh for
Oh, I have moments like that too, though. I have moments like that
yeah.
too. A project just doesn't work, and you look at it, and you're like, oh, and you're just like, that's it. I'm done. I quit. There was a project I
Yep.
had like that the other day where I was working on a jingle dress for the national chief, and I'm doing beadwork for her now, right now too. And I'm like, just waiting to get started on this beadwork. Like I've started on it, but I'm just like looking at it and I'm so intimidated by it because who it's for.
Mm.
But the first jingle dress I made for her daughter, I hated it. I was like, that's it. I'm never sewing again. And then I had to sell the jingle dress to somebody else and then make a new one. And I was like, hey, maybe I'm not done sewing. Like there's moments like that where like it's okay to crash out with your business, I think. As long as you're not crashing out in public, but like those little internalized crash outs where you're like, hey, I had enough. I think every businesswoman goes through that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And also when it's just like you can't work, you can't do the one job, the one task. It's very much
Yeah.
like those funny little memes that we see. I know that I saw this meme where it's Kermit the Frog and titled on top, it says Wi-Fi connected. And then Kermit the Frog says, then doesn't act like it. It's
Yeah.
very much the time of you're a damn cell phone. You have one task, and that is to do the task I am. But sometimes it's just like, no, I want to die. No, I don't want to work. No, I'm going to have a crash out with the Instagram app. And it's just like,
Yeah.
you couldn't wait until I finished what I started.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, anyways, I enjoy the rambling, but again, our listeners and viewers are probably not that interested in our rambling. So we'll probably move on to the second question. Okay. And this goes back to your pathway and your career and how you sort of came into beading. Um, how did your path lead you to becoming a businesswoman, deadly beatings, and what aspect of your work do you find most fulfilling?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so I'll be entirely honest with you guys. The reason why I got into beading and got into it so heavily was because I had to do CPR on someone who was quite small and I couldn't get the feeling off my fingers. So I needed to do something else with my hands other
Mm-hmm.
than just feeling that. So it became an obsession. And then as I started making all this beaded stuff, people were like, hey, well, let me buy it. And then that's how, like, I was just constantly hammering out lanyards, earrings, like all sorts of things, not to sell, but just to feel something other than the feeling of CPR on my hands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it just took off. Like the brand has had different names. It was Bird's Nest for a bit, but then I rebranded this year to Deadly Beatings just to kind of give it its own little uniqueness. We have a few other birds in Manitoba and like across Canada that bead, and a lot of their beading is like, oh, Birdhouse Creations, Birdhouse, blah blah blah. And I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have something that was a little bit more like individual to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my kids about it. And I was like, what do you guys think about deadly beatings? And they're like, deadly beatings. I was like, yeah, like deadly beatings. They're like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. So that's how it came up. And yeah, like I think my favorite part though about being like the most like fulfilling part of this business is bringing people's ideas to life. A lot of these people have ideas for what they want for like their beaded designs or like their beaded jewelry, grad caps, stuff like that, but they just don't have the knowledge or the ability to do that themselves. So when they bring me their idea and I'm able to like put that into like reality for them and give them that and they're able to wear it, like it's so fulfilling because you just see their eyes light up because it's like
Mhm.
everything is personally made. You can't duplicate beaded things. Everything is individually made. So knowing that they have something that is made just for them and seeing the way that it makes them feel is what's most fulfilling to me. And I think like one of the best, like my favorite orders to work on is like grad sets and wedding sets because
Mhm.
that's like somebody wants to wear your work on like the biggest day of their life, you know? And that's like probably
Yes.
fulfilling for me, but also fulfilling for them. But fulfilling for me for sure is knowing that like my creations, my work are part of their big day.
Hmm. Yes. And touching on that, I've completely forgot what episode it was. I think it was episode 4 where or 5, I had my guest Joyce Roberts, who also is a full-time beater and a mama and a
Yeah.
businesswoman. I'm just curious, if I were to start my own network within artisans and beaters and business owners and business women who have their own products and who usually sell them for cash value or for dollar value, would I
Yeah.
be able to create a network where we do something? And again, my English brain is
No, I
just
know where
not
you're coming
working with
at.
me.
I know where you're
Yeah.
coming from, and that is something that we desperately need in Canada. I actually
Hmm.
saw something like that in the States when I was at Black Hills Powwow last weekend, where they had a booth, and it was literally like multiple artisans from that one area just having all of their work on display. And I think
Hmm.
making sure that people have the connections in order to actually do something like that so they can make money is really
Hmm.
important because a lot of the times there's so much competition in this type of business, and it's kind of like it's low key condensed. Like there's a lot of beaters and a lot of like artisans within Canada and they do so many different things and a lot of them are women that it's hard to kind of get connected to everybody, right? So I
Hmm.
think making sure that we have a network like that where we can have a like a highway to each other is so important because it will help with trades. It can help with business things. Like if you got an order coming up or whatever and you need a belt for it or a set of moccasins, you know a woman, you know, a couple hours away that can do that and be a part of that order with you. And I think something like that would be super beneficial. I would
Yes.
100% be a part of that.
Yes. But also, could I do some sort of exchange, like non-monetary exchange? Like, what is the word? Commoderating? That is probably not the word, but it's where you're exchanging, say, a piece of your beading or for something that I'd
Like
have
a
to
trading
offer.
post. Yeah.
Yes, like a trading post.
Yeah, that's something that we need to because our people used to do a lot of trading back in the day. And I'm noticing
Mm-hmm.
that is starting to come out a lot more with like people that are creating with especially like in the indigenous circle. Trading is
Mm-hmm.
making a big comeback. And I would like, yeah, I'm all about trades. I love trades.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, instead of, I don't have a product for the podcast, but I did mention that I am starting a second business.
Yeah.
And okay, the listeners and the viewers, they get to have a piece of the action too. You were the first to know this outside of my family, but I am in the process. I am in the journey of having a second business, which is a print on demand business. So through Canva, I create my own designs and I create my own little sayings and I paste it together in sort of this little art that can be printed or embroidered on these clothing items and that can be sold through an online platform. Um, but I'm thinking if I were to order sample orders and I were to do, say, an exchange with you yourself, could I then, would there be an interest with other artisans and with other Indigenous business women who might want to hop on the train and we'd
100%.
have our own little internal trading post?
100%. 100%. There's women that are looking to trade for their stuff all the time. I don't know if you noticed on TikTok, but there's been like a trend going around about women, like they're like what I would trade my beadwork for and stuff.
Mm,
Or they'll like post pictures of their pieces and be like, this is what I would trade this for. I 100% think that could be a thing.
yeah. Especially, when we're so capitalized, there's the word that I was looking for. What and it's true, because I listened to a little snippet from a podcast, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the podcast or the name of the host of the podcast, but it talked about, I think it was Indian Collective, I'm not 100% sure, but it talked about how the the governments of Canada, they're sort of, how do I say it, unauthentic. They were
Yeah.
created for the sole purpose of the Indian Act, and they were created for, say, the treaties and for the reserves. This was all, inauthentic. This was
Yeah.
non-authentic, because prior to this, we had our own governments, we had our own systems. And if you go back to the history textbooks, there's actual mention of matriarchal governments. Like they appointed a cookum, a grandmother, and she selected the chief, she selected the counselor, she selected who was the treasurer, or da 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 da. It
Yeah.
was the woman, because she had the knowledge and because she was the life giver of these men and women. So it's, I'm going to call BS on the Canadian government. And whoa, people are probably going to go in the governments and probably going to, there's probably going to be shots fired about the statement that I just made. But I find it to be a joke, because, and I agree with that podcast, that it was created for the sole purpose of, controlling the Indigenous communities and the Indigenous
Yeah.
population, because we weren't white. And I read somewhere and I heard somewhere that the reason why they did what they did to the Indigenous people wasn't just for the obvious of controlling them or for segregating them, but it was because we were seen as like savages. We were seen as dirty because of our skin color, because
Yeah.
to them, white is pure and clean, versus us, we're tan and brown, so we must
We must
be
be
dirty.
dirty. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
it's
we must
very
be
much,
dirty.
yeah, it's very much a joke, because the Canadian government, aside from the 2005 apology, which I have a feeling was a PR stunt to get the people to be on, like, to sort of be on the good side of the public, to be on the good side of the people.
That I can actually speak on that. So
Hmm.
I was in politics for a long time, and I was actually in conservative politics, believe it or not. I am not
Oh,
anymore.
wow.
It's okay, we can laugh about it. I ran for the Conservative Party of Canada, guys. It honestly wasn't that big of a mistake until like two leaders in, and then I was like,
Mm,
ooh. So I came in from around the time that the it was handed over from Harper to Shear, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm.
And Stephen Harper, everyone thinks that he's like super freaking racist and whatever. He loves Indigenous people. He loves
Mm,
them. But it's the people within the party, like the directors and like the managers and stuff like that, who make the leaders seem like they're just pieces of shit. Pardon my French, but it's
wow.
yeah, and like that apology he'd been wanting to give for such a long time, but they wouldn't let him. Like it's literally how it is. Like there's so many insane racists within the Conservative Party.
Mm,
And it's so sad. Like it's honestly, I don't know. And there's a lot of interference happening now lately within like the Canadian government, and like I don't know, you just see everything that has gone on right from the beginning, and like nothing has ever been put in place to benefit Indigenous people. You know what I
exactly.
mean? And then you get leaders that like recognize it and they're like, hey, this is wrong. But then people within their party are like, yeah, you just about that. Like it's a lot of that is happening, and it's happening not just within the Conservative Party, but the Liberal Party and the NDP Party as well. So
Mm,
that's why I'm like, I don't know. If I ever got back into politics, it would be like an Indigenous led party only, because all of these major
mm-hmm.
parties just they aren't working for us, and our leaders like I don't know. The last good leader that our party had, or like their party had, was Andrew Scheer, and that's because he actually gave voices to Indigenous people. I was writing the policy for like the Indigenous policy for the Conservative Party of Canada, and then as soon as Pierre Poilievre got in, he scrapped all that. So that's why I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. Like, there's so many people internally within the Conservative Party of Canada who just do not give a shit about Indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, so like when you talk about that apology and stuff like that, like Stephen Harper wanted to do that forever ago. He wanted to do that right from the time that he got elected, but he wasn't able to because the directors and all of those other people that are in there, like the Harper family is like, they're friends with me. Like, it's definitely like, I'm friends with his wife. I know that if I ever go to Alberta and I need a safe place to go, like I can go there. And like they definitely like amplified my voice, if that makes sense, like when I was
Mm-hmm.
there. So yeah, it's definitely like you cannot trust the government because the people who are the leaders aren't actually the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I'm not gonna say who, but it was a very close loved one of mine. I'm not gonna say who because I do not want the trolls and the haters to go after the
Yeah.
person I love. But it was someone close to me that said, and it actually makes sense, that there was someone puppeteering Harper throughout his time in house, which
Yep.
kind of makes sense now that you mention it. And if we go deeper into thinking about it,
Yep. Harper is
I
such a good guy. Like when you meet him and like you're in his presence, like I don't know if you can feel vibes or whatever, but like
mm,
he just gives like grandpa vibes. Like you just want to hug him and be close to him all day because he's just so kind. Like his wife,
wow.
she loves cats. You know what I mean? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
all she does is love her cats. She loves hiking, you know what I mean? Like there's such
Mm-hmm.
good, interesting people. So that when you see everyone is like, ah, screw the Harpers. I'm like, no, they're so nice. It's the people within the party, like the
Yeah.
higher ups. Like when I was in there was people that asked me like, oh, well, when you get elected, are you gonna be whipped into votes? And I was like, hell no. Like whatever my riding wants is what they get. Like I'm not gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna vote for this. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of corruption within the government, and it sucks
Yeah.
because a lot of these people that are really good people look like they just look like they're at the center of it all. But it happens in every
Mm-hmm.
party. Like I don't know, have you heard about what happened with the NDP and like their MP for Nunavut and how they pretty much like silenced her and wouldn't let her do what she needed to do or like do her job effectively?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not an active, like, I'm not actively on the political trend or on the
Yeah.
news or whatever, but there is every time, such as the 2005 apology from Stephen Harper, when I find something that, sort of captivates my mind or captivates my interest, then I will put a bit of research, but not a whole lot of research, but just enough for me to have an informed perspective on it. But please go ahead and share with
Yeah.
us.
Well, like I can share like my own personal experience, and I know the Conservative Party, if they hear this somehow, they're gonna be like, "What the hell, Ciara?" But I don't care. I'm not a part of them anymore. Um, there was so much policy that I did under Andrew Scheer and Aaron O'Toole for like clean drinking water and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like housing and our incarcerated Indigenous individuals and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of work that I did. That as soon as people within the Conservative Party realized that I was like just fiscally conservative and like socially left, they scrapped it as soon as Pierre Poilievre got in. They scrapped it. Didn't matter how beneficial it was to the people, how effective it was. Like my policy was used word by word by Andrew Scheer during the 2019 Prime Minister debates.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Pierre Poilievre got in, because like those are like the SoCons that got in, they scrapped all
Yes.
of my work. So it's there's a lot of like corruption within our political systems and stuff like that. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I got out of politics and became a businesswoman, was because I knew that no matter what in politics, I was always gonna be controlled. Like, but at least here, like I can control my own stuff, you know. The only way they can control me is
Yes.
through the CRA.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the Canadian
Revenue agency.
revenue
Oh,
agency. Yeah.
oh, it was terrible, terrible organization.
Mm. But it also goes back to opening up the conversation about how the Canadian government is a joke. And again, there's going to be shots fired, which I'm not sure I'm prepared for, but I am going to mentally prepare myself for the possibility of shots fired, especially from the non-Indigenous white folks.
Oh my
But
God,
it
my
is a joke.
favorites. My favorites. They always have so much to say. Oh, it's my favorite. I love arguing with them because I grew up white. So how are they gonna argue with someone who's a half breed, So like I'll be
uh,
watching. If any of them have something to say,
Half
I'll be
breed
like,
over here too.
yeah, I'm like, how
Yeah.
are you gonna argue with me when I'm half of you? Like,
Oh.
yeah.
Ooh, this episode 9 just went from conservative to modest to juicy in a matter of seconds. And there's
Well, for
probably
real.
going to be.
It's like I'll watch them and like I don't know, have you been following what's happened with like Indigenous stuff in like Winnipeg recently where we've had like this residential school denier come into Winnipeg and like actively harass and attack like our local elders?
No, can you please share that with
Oh
me?
my gosh. Okay, so there's this woman, her name is Frances. So I'm not even gonna say her last name, but she's like
Mm.
an active like residential school denier, and she came
Er.
to Winnipeg and was like the graves aren't real. And do you know like Grandma Shingoose? Have you heard of her before?
No, I'm sorry. I've been living under a rock.
Yeah, it's okay. She's like a really famous elder here in Manitoba. She got into Grandma Shingoose's face, and then she got into another one of my elders' face. And this elder and I are very close because we were
Mm-hmm.
at a powwow. Like we weren't at a powwow together, but we were at the same powwow. And she collapsed and went into cardiac arrest, and like I with a group of other people saved her life, right? So when I was watching this woman interact with her, and she was like laughing in her face, denying her experiences in residential school, I was like, okay, I'm ready to argue with these people. So like that's kind of been like my whole MO lately, has been arguing with these white people who are like the residential schools didn't happen, and I'm like, yeah, they did. Like, my dad's a residential school survivor. Like my
Mm-hmm.
elders are. Like, how are you gonna sit here and laugh in their faces? So that's kind of like what we've been facing here in like Manitoba. So I'm always ready for it. I love the non-Indigenous people who always have something to say, because it's like, come on, pick up a book, go for a walk. Like you can see it for yourself. All the intergenerational trauma. There's a
Yeah.
dog here that's not mine. Don't let that dog in the house. This the choice of living on the res. There's a puppy in my yard and it's not mine.
Yeah. Um, but yes, so just hopping back a little bit before our conversations turned into juiciness and politics and to the snapping of the nails topics. I would love to start my own little trading post, but I'd love for it to be intimate and small in the beginning and just with a couple of people in the beginning, because I do believe that there is more benefit to us trading than there is for monetary value. Or it could be a trading post where there's a small dollar value amount, let's say $20 to pay for gas, and then I would give you some of my products from this business, and then we could spend some time together, just some for an example. And I've always yearned towards that, and I've always leaned towards that, and I just wanted to start, but I never knew where or how. And so, just sort of a side note and veering off topic from our current political conversation.
Went from beating to politics real quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works out here. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Yeah.
good. But yeah.
That's literally my life though. And the funniest thing too is I beat for politicians now. And I'm like, oh, my life has come full circle.
Yeah. But it also ties into our teachings of circles and
Yeah.
how everything is connected into a circle, and our lives, they're pretty
Yeah.
much, proof
They're
of that.
all
They're very much.
intertwined.
Yes.
Everyone knows, like, if you think about it, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Like in one
Yes.
way, we know everybody in the world. Like it's such a
Mm-hmm.
small world. There may be 7 billion people, but like everyone knows everybody. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think that's so beautiful, because how I don't know, with how big the world is, how connected everyone can still be.
Yes. True. 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 Um, but yeah, I completely agree to that. So if you're willing, add you to my mailing list and, add you to my network, and maybe you and I can start that trading post instead of just talking
Yeah.
about it. But yes, now that we've sort of got two questions out of the way, it's time that we move on to the third question, because again, there's going to be enough shots fired to pass around for generations and for the next few days.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think
I'm
we've
pretty
had
sure that's
enough.
how we got connected, was because people were firing away at Shaylin Bird, and that's probably how you saw my video, I think, eh?
No, I saw a beaded video actually, and then
Oh,
I
really?
jumped the gun and invited you to be a guest on the podcast. But
Oh, that's
please fill
cool.
us in on the tea.
Yeah, so in the powwow circle, like this is something too, like I kind of thought this was the conversation was gonna be about. Um, was like just kind of like the bullying and stuff that happens within our powwow circle, and like what we need to do like as indigenous people to end that, and like to start practicing lateral love instead of lateral violence,
Mm-hmm.
and like starting to like kind of put the blood quantum goblins in their place. I love to call them that
Yeah.
because they're goblins for the blood quantum. They're like, how much blood quantum? Like it doesn't matter, 65%. Just kidding. But like, like
Uh-huh.
there was kind of like stuff going like that on with my friend Shaylin, and people were kind of on her case and bullying her and stuff like that for being light skinned, for being really well spoken, and pretty much for being like you and me.
Hmm.
And I found that really, really upsetting. So I had made that video, and I was like, I somehow managed to capture her waving in some other fancy shawl dancers. And I
Mm-hmm.
posted that, and I was like, how are you gonna bully her when like she does this for people? But yeah,
Yeah.
that's initially how I thought we got connected. But yeah, that was like, again, that was one of my videos that went viral, that like watching, like I didn't think that one was gonna go viral, but there was one that went viral before it. But yeah, again, like
Mm-hmm.
just watching content and stuff like that too. And that's kind of how what happened there. Like the indigenous community can be really rough to be a part of sometimes, but I wouldn't want it any other way, because there's such a sense of family and such a sense of community that you don't get
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else, that like I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree. It's just I agree with that. That happens in indigenous communities, and that is the truth. But sometimes it can be daunting, because sometimes you can be put in the wrong indigenous community, or
Yeah.
not wrong, sorry, but you can be put in, an indigenous community that you did not want, that you were not manifesting for. And it could be the indigenous community that, again, has lateral violence instead of lateral love, and lateral negativity instead of
Yeah.
lateral positivity.
Well, I think like all of our communities in some way or shape have some form of lateral violence in them. Whether it's like a form of jealousy, a form of like non-support, or just like not being decent to others. Like I think you're gonna find that in every single community that you go into. But as a human and as a
Mm-hmm.
matriarch and as like a woman, it is our responsibility to come in with that positivity, with that love, and be like, we're not putting up with this, and it ends with us. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what makes the indigenous community so beautiful, is that we can go through that, but then at the same time say like, hey, we're done with this, we're gonna move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's something that I really appreciate about our community. And a lot of the times too, sometimes you're put in circles to change them. And that's one of the things that
Yes.
I try to remind myself of too, because sometimes I'll find myself in situations that I don't want to be in, or like I'll find myself around people that I don't want to be around. And I just got to remember I'm put there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could there be a reason? Could there be a background reason or an outside reason as to why I started this podcast, possibly, that I am totally unaware of or oblivious to?
I don't know. That would have to come down to like self reflection and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. It's,
All good.
yeah, I'm getting over bronchitis. But a lot of the times we start these projects because we just want to see good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is. For me, it was like I wanted to see beadwork that was fair. I wanted to see beadwork that was put like together with good intentions and stuff like that. So sometimes like
Mm-hmm.
what we do why we do sorry, we do what we do and why we do it, because it's what we need to see.
Mm. But yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so a little backstory, and I know that there's going to be a lot of eye rolling and a lot of, she's going to explain about the podcast again. But just a little disclaimer for Ciara, because she's new to this. The reason I started the podcast was because I wanted to provide a platform where storytelling was the whole goal, was the whole purpose, was the whole surrounding core of the podcast. Storytelling for Indigenous professionals, because let me tell you this, as a 2000 baby, as a Y2K baby, when the yellow pages of the phone book, did you ever see like a substantial amount of say for example, C for construction or C for childcare? You were lucky to see at least 3 to 5 listed under there, and there were very scarce Indigenous businesses, whereas now
Yeah.
we're getting into social media and there's more promoting and there's more putting out there of Indigenous businesses. So that was the whole reason for the podcast, is to invite a person from a field or from various fields to showcase and amplify their voices and to make it aware of, hey, I did have someone who had a previous career in politics who is now a businesswoman and a beater and also a mom. And it's just, connecting the dots. It's neurologically connecting the dots
Yeah.
of Indigenous people. They are in every field. They're just scarcely, how do I say it? They're scarcely within the mainstream.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of that too comes down to like putting yourself out there, right? Like a lot of people are scared. Oh, it's bronchitis.
Are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah. It's every once in a while it'll just like hit. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the times people are scared to put themselves out there. And a lot of that has to do with rejection. A lot of people are scared of being
Mm-hmm.
rejected. And I think we gotta kind of drop that mindset. You can't be scared to be rejected. You can't be scared to put yourself out there. You just gotta do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yes.
that's why a lot of these women aren't getting a lot of what's like the right word for it? They're not getting as much attention as they deserve, is because
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it comes down to like fear of being rejected, fear that our product isn't going to be good enough. And I know I feel that a lot too. Like before I post a picture of my stuff, I'll be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
is this good enough? But it is, because you've made it. You put your time in it, you put your effort into it, and it's worth showing off.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. All right, and moving on to question 3. Question 3 touches a little bit about a surprise factor of the business, and it deals with, what is one surprise that you wish you knew prior to going into the business, or what is one surprise that sort of caught you off guard before you went into the business?
The beating, gatekeeping. Oh my God. There are so many people, especially beaters, that want to gatekeep their designs, gatekeep their
Oh.
color schemes, their color patterns, stuff like that. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
one of those beaters. I know there's a few beaters that are like me too. There's a lot of people too that won't even let you take photos of their beadwork. Like
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. That's the one thing that surprised me and shocked me about the beading community, was just how much gatekeeping there is in there. Cause like, for why? It wouldn't, like, I think if I pull inspo from something that you've beaded, like, that is an honor, because it's drawn my attention, it's drawn my eye. And that's kind of the same way that I feel, is if somebody kind of copies something that I do, if they redo it, I'm honored, because it's something that I did caught their eye enough that they wanted to not so much duplicate it, but make their own version of it. And that's
Yeah.
something that I definitely noticed was like a huge issue in the beading community, was how many people want to gatekeep their beadwork. Like, how do you expect yourself to be out there and get noticed and whatever if you keep like holding back your templates and holding back like whatever? Like, I can understand if you design your template yourself and you put a lot of like work into it, but like there's some people who won't even like sell their templates. And it's I don't know, it's really rough because at the same time, like, you should have enough faith in your product that you know that nobody else can do it the way that you do, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So there's
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of like hostility within that community that I was surprised by. And I'd wish it was something that I knew about before because I could have like prepared myself for it. Because like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it happened to me where I saw somebody. It was like one of the very first sets of earrings I made. Somebody had did something, or no, it was a skirt. I made a skirt, and
Mm-hmm.
the skirt had bows on it. And this one woman was like, "Oh, you copied my idea." I was like, "I've seen people put bows on skirts even before you did, you know." And
Mm.
then there was another thing too where I was beating something, and someone was like, "Oh, that looks very similar to what I did," or I'm doing a, or someone will be doing like the same because we have a lot of sports teams and stuff out here too. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'll be making a medallion for like the Blue Bombers or the Jets or like our local Tomahawks hockey team or whatever, and like people will get like, and it's not even people from my communities, people from other communities that'll be like, "Oh, well, I wanted that order," and I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to say, right? So there's a lot of like hostility and negativity and like gatekeeping in the beading community. And that was something that really, really,
Mm.
really shocked me, really surprised me. And is something that like I know myself and a few other beaters are really working at like combating and making go away. So it's more welcoming for other beaters.
Mm. Yeah, I find okay, so trying to put together, string the words together for this sentence for the what I'm about to say. But you know, I am on the very low spectrum of, receiving views or receiving attention for my business. I would actually trade not having as many views and very like zero comments on all my videos. I would trade that for the attention that you're getting, even if it's negative attention, because
Yeah.
negative comments, they pay the bills too. It's not
Yeah.
just positive and uplifting comments. It could be just any comment, period.
Yeah. Yeah. And like for me too, like that's why like I'll sometimes if I get on things like this, like I'll bring up politics and stuff like that because a lot of people they'll listen to it and they're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." They're like exposing the deepest secrets of the Conservative Party of Canada. Like, gonna get
Like a
myself
whistleblower.
sued.
Oh,
Just
you're the
kidding.
next whistleblower.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a whistleblower, guys. No, there's nothing really to whistleblow about within the Conservative Party. The PC Party of Manitoba, though, ooh, we could do a different podcast on that one day because that's if people like the politics aspect of it, because that's a whole different thing. But honestly, the as long as you keep pushing out content, like I know people who have
Mhm.
started podcasts that have like been doing it, I think for 2 years, and like their first couple episodes weren't that popular, but as people started listening and whatever, and like listening to the different viewers and how it went on, it started to gain a lot more popularity. And now it's to the point where people are like, "When's the next episode?" And like they're demanding it, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. Like it doesn't necessarily happen in the first season, but like the second or third season, like
Mhm.
it'll come quick.
Yeah. In fact, my plan for the second season is to have it not only aired on YouTube but also on other streaming platforms, so that way I can outreach to more listeners and more viewers. I'm thinking
Yeah.
Spotify, but I don't know how Spotify will play with that, given that I just gave up my own personal Spotify. Because let me tell you this, as a Y2K baby and talking about social media and how it was before social media, and the fact that I still have my BlackBerry, disclaimer, I am slowly getting back to having physical media. And you probably came across a few, I know I came across a few of where there are trending videos of people ditching Spotify, ditching the subscriptions, and going back to physical media, going back to curating a DVD collection, a music collection, and da da da
Yeah.
da da, which I'm slowly getting back to.
Yeah, I have too many kids for that. The subscriptions are just easier. Like, all the kids can just do what they want. But for me, like I listen to all my podcasts on Spotify. So I definitely highly recommend it. Like it's a lot
Mhm.
easier for people to like access it. They can download it and listen to it wirelessly and stuff like that if they're on their drive and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I say about Spotify too is that you can actually have like the video portion of your podcast included on there as well.
Oh,
So
great.
Yeah, so that's I noticed there's a few people that do that, that have that podcast set up. I don't know how much it costs to throw it on Spotify, but yeah,
Hmm. Something
that
to
is
look
something to look
into.
into. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even SoundCloud, that sort of back alley popular, aside from Apple Music and Spotify, there's like those back alley
Yeah, SoundCloud, yeah.
popular streaming services like SoundCloud or iTunes or whatnot. But
Yeah.
anyways, moving on to question 4. And I'm just gonna wing it and I'm gonna use my mind because my freaking battery died, which is
Uh-oh.
another fun part of being a online person. Anyway, so for question 4, it deals with personal experiences and how your personal experiences of being a beater and also being a businesswoman, how does that create inclusive or culturally designated pieces? Like, how does your personal experience of culture and your personal experience as a businesswoman, how does that sort of blend into your business as a beader, as putting out your beadwork?
Yeah, like I think for me, I practice like when I do my beadwork and stuff like that. Um, remain very culturally like in tune with how it's supposed to be done. Like with each
Mhm.
stitch, thinking the good thoughts, not being under the influence of alcohol or like hard drugs and
Mhm.
stuff like that while I'm beading. Um, a lot of that, but a lot of like my beadwork and stuff like that, I want to say is like I don't know, the colors that I use are always my favorites. The designs that I use are always something that speak to me, speak to my family. So it's always like tied somehow in like my culture and stuff like that, right? Like it's um everything that I do that has to do with like my beading and everything is all it brings me back to my culture, right? Because you're praying while you're working on
Mhm.
it, like you're smudging, you're doing stuff like that, and then a lot of the pieces that I do like that I do make are for regalia. So a lot of people are
Mhm.
dancing with them. I work on moccasins. I work on like fully beaded sets. So a lot of the stuff that I'm working on, it needs to be prayed over because it's going out into the circle, and I think that kind of really helps it keep connected. And then like the business aspect of it too, like I try to make my money as honestly as possible. I don't
Mhm.
overcharge people. I don't I don't scam people. I don't like take too many orders and then like not get them done, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So, and I think that kind of helps kind of keep it close to the culture as well too, because like our people were really about fairness and providing like fair services and fair products that like that are good quality and whatever, that things that could last you for a long time, but you're not paying an arm and a leg for it. Like, not even gonna lie, like our people be cheap as hell, you know? So like I want to be making things that like we can afford and things that we're gonna value and cherish and stuff like that. Cause like for me, like I'm cheap as hell. Like if I go and I buy something that's like $900 worth of beadwork, I'm never gonna want to wear it because I don't want to break it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like I think that keeping in mind that like people are gonna be using it for their regalia, for their cultural stuff like that. Um, that's something that keeps everything kind of tied together because it's an honest and fair way to make money, and I'm not like gouging people or taking advantage of them, which is something that I really like. Where there's other businesses where like that kind of is the business plan, where it's like to
Mhm.
take advantage of people and whatever. And like for me, that's I feel like I'm working in a very creator based mindset, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah. I like not creator as in like, oh, creator, but like creator as in like creator. Like I try
Mhm.
to, I try to, I try to practice my business the way that like he would, because I know that if I ever make money in an unfair and or unethical way, it's gonna come back to haunt me 100-fold. So
Yeah.
I'm very like, yeah, very karma based in my business.
Mhm. Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with me myself. Is I'm a very karma sensitive, or what is the word? But just a very karma cautious person, where it's just
Yeah.
like I want to, provide as much as I can for our people, for our indigenous folks, which again was the whole point and the whole core of creating the podcast, is for them to have a platform and to be comfortable and to veer off topic or to be as comfortable as they want to, and sort of, showcase their stories, to showcase their experience, but also to showcase a fair and an authentic representation of who we are as
Yeah.
people. We're very much storytellers, we're very much conversationalists, and
Yes.
as we lead into this, we're past the 1.5 hour mark, but we're okay with that. We're okay with setting more than a time. Like, we're not time crunching like these other podcasts where we have to get this done in an hour. We have to get this many podcast episodes within this week, within this time frame. And it's just like,
Yeah.
that is not why I created the podcast. It was to bring comfort and conversations. And also, that is the core value of my second business, where I will be um, pasting my designs on clothing pieces that are then, printed by a wholesale company.
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason why I want to be a businesswoman and an entrepreneur, is to bring comfort and conversations, to bring comfortability and conversations and storytelling together.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah. Was there anything else that we forgot to mention for question 4, or are we good?
I think we're covered on that one.
Okay, great. So question 5 deals with reconciliation, and it's where we will talk about reconciliation to as much or to as little as we wish. But the question asks, how can we move forward? How can we take the necessary steps, and what steps can we consider towards reconciliation, and how can we as a collective get started?
Oh, I think demanding space for our voices is the biggest one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like making room for your place and rooms that normally wouldn't make space for our voices. You got to go out there, you got to make yourself be heard, you got to make sure that the indigenous opinion is considered, because this is our land, this is our country. Like, people aren't just free to do whatever the heck that they want with it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Reconciliation to me looks like the complete and total um uh I'm trying to think of the correct word for it, the complete and total consultation of indigenous people regarding
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what reconciliation looks like to me. Like, no matter what the government wants to do, okay, let's ask the nations what they think, um ask the chiefs, ask the national chief. A lot of my faith is actually within our national chief, Cindy Woodhouse Neepanak, and I think that she is somebody that is going to break barriers and shatter ceilings and pave ways for so many indigenous people, and for that path to reconciliation to actually happen, because she is
Mm-hmm.
demanding that people listen to us and take our opinion into consideration. I definitely think that reconciliation looks like consideration for
Mm-hmm.
our people. And I definitely think that we're on the right path to it now. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, but reconciliation just isn't on our part too. It's on the non-indigenous people's part too. The non-indigenous people need to sit down, be quiet. They need to listen to our stories. They need to
Mm-hmm.
listen to what we have to say. They need to listen to our opinions, to our facts, because what they were taught in high school and what they were taught by their parents and their teachers and their loved ones isn't true. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
what we have has been fed to us through those systems is inaccurate, and it has given people a basis to create racism towards our people, and I've had enough of it. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, towards for me, reconciliation looks like consideration. A lot of these people have this mindset, well, it's shared land. No, it's not. We share it with you because we have no other choice. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely really believe in that consultation, and that are having our informed consent before they make decisions. Like, that's something that's really important to me. And what I think reconciliation looks like is, we can't consider Canada to be like reconciled until indigenous people have just as much say as the non-indigenous people about what happens with everything that goes on in our country.
Yes, I completely agree with that, because, again, as a non-political enthusiast, or however you'd like to describe me, for someone who's clearly lived under a rock, and I'm fine with that. But from what I find interesting, or from what I find that pulls sort of my mind into the fold with these political stories or events, is such as the 2005 Harper apology, is that there's very much that toe of pulling, nagging, and pushing, but it's sometimes it's the imbalance that is like front facing, or is at the
Yeah.
very front of like news articles, or what comes out on the news, or what is anti or what is pro propaganda,
Yeah.
is very much that imbalance between the parties and the governments, and outside of the governments, the indigenous and
Oh,
non-indigenous. We see and feel the imbalance. Like there's not enough balance to go around, but there's a lot of imbalance tenfold to go around, if that even
yeah.
makes any sense.
There's a lot of imbalance. More imbalance than balance.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. And I'm so aware it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yes. But women were always the ones cleaning up after the men.
Always. Always. Oh my God. Can't even, ugh, in every sense. Political, first response, beating, everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've never had a relationship with a guy. Thank God. I know that when I was a teenager and in my younger years prior to this year, I was all about, oh, I can't wait to be in a relationship and to have that experience. But, you know, now I'm sort of taking a step back and going, ew. I'm very picky, and I've got a very tall order of what a man is to be and how
Yes,
he is to
have that
behave.
standard. Have that standard. It's so important to have because, like, and I say this to all of my friends, all of my family. I met my husband at a young age, like, and I got so lucky. But I also went through hell before meeting him. So, like, he is
Mm,
like, he's my good karma, you know what I mean? But I always
yeah.
tell women, like, if your husband doesn't act the way that mine does, don't settle for him because my man is the standard. Like, it's, I don't know. I've been with him. It'll be 10 years tomorrow. We've been together. And we have
Ooh.
5 kids. We have one more on the way. Like, and it's definitely like my standard.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So like my standard for men is like him. I look at my friends'
Mm-hmm.
men and I'm like, you ain't shit, you know, like because I look at my husband and I'm like, you good man. He brings home moose meat. He comes home with the milk.
Ooh,
He's a good man.
damn.
Yeah. So it's definitely like keep that standard. Do not settle for anything less than you deserve because it is better to be alone than to be with someone who makes you feel alone. Because prior to him, like
Yep.
I was with people that I absolutely they made me hate my life. But he brings so
Mm.
much joy to my life and every little dream that I have, every little goal that I have, he's right there behind me, backing me. He's the one that funds my whole business. Like for me to get into politics, for me to get into paramedicine, he held down the house. Like he does everything. So I think definitely like having a good partner is something that can really
Mm-hmm.
help make a woman too. But sometimes being alone is better than having someone who isn't going to believe in you the same way that someone else will, you know?
Say it louder for the girls in the back.
Don't settle for less than what you deserve. Find you a
Man,
man who
I
lets you
love
do
it.
things like argue with old white men for fun. Because he was
I
like, why do
love
you want to get into politics? I was like, because I want to argue with old white men. I'm just done listening to
it.
them. I'm done listening to their nonsense. He was like, you go, babe. I got you. So yeah, that's my best advice.
Damn. That clearly needed to be heard from the front to the back.
There's
All
gonna be
right.
men out there that are gonna make you believe that they're gonna provide that type of stuff, and until you can actually see it firsthand,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I know as soon as I told him I wanted to run for federal office, he was like, "Hey, what do we do next?" I was like, "You're the one. You the one." Like,
Oh, damn.
yeah.
Wow, that's some golden rule right there.
100%. You got to find a man that believes in you as much as you believe in you.
Yeah. The more the merrier, they say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I believe we've covered question 5 and we've dealt with the topic of reconciliation. And I do agree with you. In order for reconciliation to be had, there needs to be a lot of attention and a lot of consultation and a lot of those conversations to happen with Indigenous people
Yes.
for anything. Tell me about it. Especially if they want to make, top dollar on our oil rights, they got to come talk to us
Yep.
first.
Our logging, our oil, our silica sand, our water, everything, everything. Our minerals, our gold, our lithium, they take it all. They take it all. And we
Yeah.
need to have some say into where it's going and how much it's being sold for. We need to get some money for it. Because, like, how are you going to come onto our land and take our resources and then sell it and not give us nothing? That's like me coming into your yard, stealing a cow and selling it and then not giving you no money. Like, that, this is just not how the world works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they say money makes the world go round, and yet we don't see any of that money. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they act like Indigenous people just get all these tax breaks and we have so much wealth.
Yeah.
Where?
How come I don't have a 24-karat gold bracelet
For
on my
real.
arm now?
It must be hidden in the band office. Heck, all that funding.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now we will conclude episode 9 with our 6th and final question. What is one piece of advice that you have for those who are listening and watching?
Fight for yourself. Every morning, wake up and choose to fight for yourself. Fight for a better life for yourself. Fight for yourself to get better. Fight for yourself to have more fairness, equality. Even if you're having a good life, fight for it to be better. Every morning, just wake up and choose to fight for yourself and fight for those around you. Because I see there's so much lately, a lot of passiveness where people are just kind of allowing things to happen to them and just saying, well, that it is what it is. That's just kind of the way that life dealt the cards to me. Absolutely not. So many people have so much potential and so much promise and so much drive, and life sometimes will just come and shit on us for no reason. And every morning you got to get up and you got to choose to fight for yourself and fight for what you deserve, because if you don't, nobody else will. That's the best piece of advice that I can give anybody, is to fight for yourself. 100%. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 7 years old or if you're 70 years old, there's always some way, shape, or form that you're going to have to advocate for yourself. And I think that encouraging people to find their voice and do that is probably the biggest thing. The best thing that I can do in my life is to fight for yourself. But while you're fighting for yourself, be kind. You know what I mean? Be kind to not only yourself, but others. Be patient. But definitely wake up every morning and choose yourself. Get out of bed. Fight for the life that you deserve.
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And on that note, even if it is hard, even if it is tough, just keep
Yeah.
swimming. Going back to Finding Dory.
100%. Just keep swimming. Even if you have to go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench to get what you need, fight for it. Do it. Just do it. I feel like that guy. Just do it. Like, you just gotta fight for yourself. You just get up and go. Cause no, like, and the thing is, my favorite thing, always practice free will. Remember, you can just get up and do whatever you want whenever you want. You don't have to listen, or it was something that people forget after they turn 18, is that they have free will. Practice your free will. Practice your free will.
Yes, ma'am. All right. And if you don't mind, if you still have time on your hands, I wanted to ask a bonus question.
Sure.
How do you feel about using virtual online helpers such as ChatGPT, Chat,
I love ChatGPT.
Gemini, and Alexa, Google? How do you feel about the debatable topic of using them for your business?
Yeah. So for me, I don't use ChatGPT for my business. I think that's cheating. I use ChatGPT for therapy, man. I love
Oh, damn.
ChatGPT. Oh my goodness. Did you know that you can literally access therapy for free through ChatGPT? That's what I use it for. But when you're using AI to come up with like
Uh-huh.
beading designs or like skirt designs and stuff like that, I don't agree with it because of just like the ecological impact that those types of AI softwares have. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But for me, I believe like a lot of those tools can be used to benefit humans in a way and like make things more accessible to us that like we normally wouldn't go out of our way to get. But it can still
Yeah.
be harmful to people who actually have like a creative process, a creative mindset. Like the fact that ChatGPT can just write up a script in 50 seconds is really freaking weird.
Yeah.
But you know, like I think if you use it the proper way, it can be
Hmm.
really beneficial, but I don't believe in using it for my business.
Hmm. With that side note, I use Gemini, which is a Google form of ChatGPT, but I use it seldomly for the summarization of the meetings. So we
Yes.
are doing the Google meetings, and I've every single episode, every single Google meeting for the podcast, I turn on Gemini to recap what was said in the
Yeah.
meeting so that I can use the recap and I can go over it and turn it to first person so that way I am speaking. This is what I talked about with the guest. This is what the guest
Yeah.
talked about with me. And that way that can be used as the description
Well, that's a
within the
fair way to
YouTube.
use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only so much that one person can do in one day, right? And if
Exactly.
you're using it to summarize and you're using it to like condense things and make things for your business easier, 100%. I think that that's what it's meant for. And especially if you can access that type of stuff for like low cost or free, that makes it even
Yes.
better. You know, like it's for me though, like if honestly, I can't even say that I wouldn't use AI for a beading design because if there was something that I really needed to be made and I couldn't do it myself, I low key think that I would plug it into some sort of AI thing to get it made for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be able to sell it, if that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't be able to sell that template.
Yes.
But yeah, like thinking about it like that, like maybe I should look into that. But for me, like I kind of see it as cheating. But no, when it
Yeah.
comes down to like when I'm doing like stuff for my business, like if I need to reformat my business plan, if I need to write like format an email or whatever, like I 100% use Chat GPT and stuff like that for that. But for the artistic side of it, like creating the things, I don't. But using it to summarize is a really good idea.
Yes, especially because going back to we can only hold so much in our brain, and because I want to be present and I want to be focused on having the conversations and participating and having eye contact and having that active conversation, the active
Yeah.
listening with the guest instead of going, oh, we talked about this, we talked about that, we talked about this. Oh, did we talk about this? Oh, shit, I
Yeah.
did not ask this question. Did I ask this question or did I not? Whereas Gemini turned on, it can just summarize the
It'll
conversation
summarize
in a
everything.
whole.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yes. And with that being said, thank you for hopping on your phone and hopping on to this call and
Thanks for
participating
having
in
me.
episode 9. Of course, it was very fun and I am glad that I got to shoot fire some shots and I'm glad I got to have some laughs and I got to be authentically me and I got to be a little bit crazy, but
The way to do
it is
it.
the more the merrier. The more we have to offer, the more it will come back to us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you and bye.
All right. See you later. Bye.